Hallo miteinander, I'm Shikieiki and this is Genso Yonbai Ken 2. This is a Touhou strategy RPG that released on Steam in March, but only recently did it receive a partial English translation. Gameplay only, story is still in Japanese. Nonetheless, this justifies making it part of the Let's Take a Look At series, as I can now recommend it to more than just the most die-hard pioneers. We're going to load a New Game Plus file that I've already beaten the game with once, and we start on the overworld screen. You can do a lot of preparation here, for example at Renosuke's shop, where you spend the money you've made from combat. We don't really need anything from there right now. The characters we've put into our party all have suitable gear already. The overworld also lets you choose what opponent to go after next. We could challenge Orin, Futo, Mistia, or do this ever-repeatable training mission. That'll give us the chance to go over the basics before we tackle a more spicy scenario. The game of our last Let's Take a Look At, Senran Meisuishu Tactics, is a really good comparison here. Just like in that one, you move units over a playing field. Genso Yonbai Ken 2, however, seems closer to Disgaea than Fire Emblem in how it looks and feels. You'll agree once you see these spell card effects, like the one from Remu's Fantasy Seal. Unlike Senran Meisuishu Tactics, this game has graphics. Yes, actual graphics. You could tell that was a fantasy seal without using your imagination. Your party can contain 5 people at most. In our case, they are Remu, Sakuya, Yuka, Mamizo, and Shikieiki Yamaxanadu, who is also the protagonist. That spell card of Mamizo did a decent amount of damage, but it was not for free. Here's where this game is different from most RPGs. You have a party-wide magic pool. It's those orbs in the top left corner. Have someone use a costly spell card, and the follow-up character won't be able to do the same right away. Some turns will have to pass until enough of your orbs have regenerated. There is a limitation on how often a singular character can use a certain spell card during a mission, but this individual magic stock is so lenient, it'll barely affect you. No, those orbs are what really matters for your overall strategizing. The enemy team has their own row of orbs in the top right corner, so they are fighting under the same rule set as you. Ouch, that was a nasty hit on Sakuya. Her health bar turned fully red, but somehow she is okay now. Weird, huh? With that, we come to the second very unusual mechanic of this game, lives. Yes, in true Touhou fashion, characters can have multiple extra lives. The pop-in health bars only inform you about the current life. Now check this out, we can use Sakuya's world. Everyone's favorite Dio Brando reference can properly stop time here. Look at the turn order on the left side. Sakuya has given herself 4 free actions while everyone's consciousness is frozen in time. It's really badass and effective. If you triggered it with enough orbs, you can even throw in a soul sculpture during those turns. That'll really mess up your enemies. Back on the matter of extra lives, if this mechanic were implemented poorly, it would be meaningless, a formality. The way it is, however, it affects how certain combatants tank hits and what attacks they will be more vulnerable against. Mamizo, for example, has but 1 life, yet an obscenely high amount of hit points within that life. Generally, this makes her very durable, but imagine if an enemy hit our Tanuki with a spell card that did like 10,000 points of damage. Mamizo would be no more. More balanced girls like Reimu, Shikieiki and Sakuya would just lose one of their 4 lives from such a mighty hit. They could take 1 billion damage, so long as just one number appears. We've got a great example coming up for the opposite idea. Shikieiki has a spell card called Trial of the 10 Kings. That one hits 10 times, once for each king. It could deduct 10 lives off of an opponent. Sounds hypothetical? Nope. Early on, you fight Shinmyomaru, who has 8 lives, the most out of anyone. That gets paired with an annoyingly high evasion. The game expects you to utilize Trial of the 10 Kings there. It is the water to the tiniest Touhou's fire. Alright, that mission gave us enough time to cover the essentials. We should spend some money, but not at Renosuke's shop. The unit menu has purchasable perks. Let's raise Mamizo's JP speed. I think that affects how quickly your magic orbs regenerate. You can buy loads of passives in this menu, but know that you must equip them and that you can only set 4 on a single person. Therefore, it makes sense to gear someone for a purpose. Mamizo isn't much of an attacker. JP speed fits well on someone as situational as her. Oh, are we going to make her shine in those situations? Here we have the status screen, by the way. That'll give you an idea how a character can be used. If we go up to Reimu, for example, we learn that I turned her into an evasion tank. 60 evade, that's a high value. So, what will we do with the rest of this video? We're going to take on one of the most challenging encounters. The final boss would be tougher, but the optional recruitment of Byakuren and Sho is up there. Both of these opponents were fought in separate missions en route to this one, but they came on their own and weren't exactly easy even then. Plus, they brought 3 fairy cronies who are of a higher caliber than those we know from the training mission. Overall, this setup seems pretty ludicrous, and it is. I do have a failed test run of this. Still, I'm sure this can be done. I made it once before. It wasn't on New Game Plus, but how much harder can it be? When you have no character selected, left-click on an enemy will show you its stats and techniques. The 2 Buddhists have some vicious spell cards. The enemies of the training level didn't actually have anything to spend their orbs on. These girls do. Now what we don't want to do for this mission is storming ahead with everyone. Squishy units like Sakuya and Shikieiki should hang back a little. Reimu is okay though. Like I said, she is our tank, and she did slip away from most of Dazzling Gold's curvy lasers. Sho rushed ahead, but lordly Byakuren is still holding back. I think there are certain conditions for her to join the brawl. It might be if either Sho or 2 of the fairies fall. Overall, Genso Yonbai Ken 2 has a pretty aggressive opponent AI. You may remember that in Senranmei Suishu Tactics, the other team kept forcing our hand. It was a lot about unit sniping. Here, battles turn into ugly bar fights much quicker. This doesn't mean they have to be less strategic. There is something we can do to keep this scenario from becoming a crude exchange of blows, because we have crowd control. Futatsuiwa clan's curse will turn the enemy into a harmless Kedama. They will not attack in this form and flee away from your party for about 3 turns. If you've ever played an MMORPG, you know that it's a go-to approach to take stronger enemies out of an encounter until you've defeated the weaker ones. The clan curse works on all opponents. Nobody I know of has any resistance or immunity against it. The only thing that could happen is that a particularly evasive enemy avoids the skill itself, like they could any other. I've actually used this party setup against the final boss, and even that one is not safe from Kedamafication. It's awesome. Byakuren has used a self-buff called Superhuman as her last action. She did so preemptively. The time for her to join the battle has not yet come. Oh, she is going to be a problem. Our next course of action will be to get rid of the remaining fairies, and Sakuya's world is going to help immensely with that. The Elegant Maid is a physical attacker, and in our case, geared towards high damage and chance to land critical hits. It says CT 50% for anything she does, and that's impressive. Nonetheless, Sakuya's usefulness may dwindle as the fight goes on. Right now is the phase where she shines the most, but later, her restriction to physical attacks will be a burden. There are also attacks of magical nature in the game, as well as a light attribute. The latter will deal more damage to yokai, evil yokai like Yuka. The Sunflower Demon will deal even more damage with her standard attacks than Sakuya, and we've selected a very special perk for her. You will see it in a moment. It's Vengeance. Whenever Yuka is damaged, her strength rises. She's like the Hulk. Wait, what is this? Byakuren thinks it's her time to play with us. No. We can't have that. The Exalted High Priestess will transform into a stupid little furball. How embarrassing is that? Not only does the curse last a while, your opponent will usually have to spend a few more turns to get back to your group. It's one heck of a weapon. There are many such unique units like Mamizo with very specific roles. Overall, there are over 20 Touhous in this game, and I've not yet experimented with all of them. Oh, I don't like the look of that. We cannot allow ourselves to have Shikieiki get hit by such big guns anymore. As I was saying before, the singular characters are all really distinct. It's very satisfying when you discover a niche strength of someone. Next up, I wanted to mention the story of this game, and that may be a strange thing to do because I don't really know it. The English version only translates the interface, not the dialogue. I could follow the premise though. In the prologue mission, Remilia, Sega, Mamizo and Oku beat up Reimu and Shikieiki. Those two want to take revenge for that and chase after their bullies. That is important because of how this game is structured. You get a lot of freedom when it comes to the order you choose your missions in. I, for example, really wanted Sega in my party, so I took the Taoist path first. Sega turned out to be very underwhelming for me, unfortunately, but that's besides the point. Fact is, you can go where you want, and there aren't really any wrong options, because enemy levels depend on how many stages you've cleared. You won't ever be presented with something you're too inexperienced to handle, and I think that's swell. The mission we are playing is on the Buddhist route, originally Mamizo's route, that's why her music can be heard. The recruitment battle for the mischievous Tanuki precedes this mission, that's how we have her already. No, Byakuren, don't hit Sakuya please. Could you go after tough and tanky Reimu first? The fact that Byakuren's standard attack is a 1-2 combo is something very unique about her. Nobody else does that. What's also remarkable is that she has no fancy nukes. She just buffs herself and hits people often and with really big numbers. A warrior archetype through and through. Since we're running out of usages for the clan curse, we will distract Byakuren by splitting our party. Sakuya and Reimu will stay in the lower part of the map, while the rest of our force will throw everything it has at Sho in the hopes of defeating her quickly. If only Byakuren is left then, it should be easy to win, right? Right? No, the magician can be impossible to defeat if you've lost key members already. Notice how we're not having Sakuya attack Byakuren here. There's a reason. Our opponent has a passive spell card called Brilliance of Mahavairokana. You may know that mouthful of a skill from the fighting games, Hopeless Masquerade and onward. When you hit Byakuren with a physical attack and her team has more than 2 magic orbs, she will block that attack completely and counter with a big energy blast. This will cause several thousand points of damage to you and definitely deduct a life. It's just as nasty as it sounds. When characters are low on lives, they will take on a tired, slumped posture. It's the case for Shikieiki and Reimu right now. Speak of the devil, Reimu has been wiped out. Too bad. Well, her main purpose was to grab attention and waste enemy turns. Dying is what tanks are for. There is no permadeath in this game. I feel that always has to be said. In some strategy RPGs there is, and that can make them stressful. Oh, Sakuya has a counter of her own that she'll occasionally use, Refined Riposte. Unfortunately, Byakuren's superhuman buff recovered most of that damage. It was for nothing. Sho has finally been defeated and leaves 56,000 mon. That is actually the biggest drop of gold you will ever receive. That's in reference to her canonical ability of gathering treasures. She's like a magnet for riches. It makes sense that she'll carry more dough on her person than anyone. About permadeath, at one point I thought Genso Yonbai Ken 2 had it. Turns out, the character that fell in battle was just supposed to abandon me after the respective mission anyway. She betrayed you, or something. I'm not going to tell you who it was. Spoilers. Looks like it's 3 against 1, but we have a fundamental problem. Byakuren's self-healing is so powerful, only our strongest moves are worth using. Among them is Yuka's Beauties of Nature, a mighty double spark that can friendly fire your own units if you misplace them. It took out one of Byakuren's 3 lives. Very good. Generally, you shouldn't deal chip damage to this boss. Even if the regeneration doesn't heal up what you shaved off, every hit you land on Byakuren causes her agility to rise further. Try and take out at least 1 life per spell card of yours. There's something else we can do about this super buffing. Mamizo's Wild Carpet has the special effect of removing positive stat alterations. The damage isn't worth speaking of, but getting the High Priestess back down to a normal action speed is a great help. I really struggled with her until I learned to exploit that weakness. Another spell that is worth using here would be Reimu's Omnidirectional Sealing Circle, if the Shrine Maiden wasn't out cold, and of course Shikieiki's Last Judgment. However, we shouldn't whip out the vertically challenged Judge of Paradise until it's Byakuren's last life. The reason being that once our Enma dares to move closer, she will be targeted. Enemies will dogpile on a frail caster such as her. You know, we all have our preferences in Touhous. There's a chance you're not too fond of Shikieiki. She's middling for myself. But I must warn you, Don't neglect her in Genso Yonbai Ken 2. You are allowed to remove her from your party of 5, but remember that she is still the game's protagonist. There is a duel that she must fight at one point, and if you've benched Shiki and refused to buy perks for her, well, have fun bashing your head against the wall. Worse still, that duel will lock off all other story missions until you've won it, and it's really tough no matter what. If you haven't purchased Last Judgment until then, I don't even see how you would make it. We could end this right here with another usage of our double spark, but let's do this in style. We can see that Shikieiki will get her turn before Byakuren. It's only appropriate that we delay until then and have Last Judgment win the battle for us. It's a singular powerful hit, excellent for bosses, unnecessary overkill for fairies or Kidama. It was tight, but with that, we've successfully hired Byakuren and Sho into our crew. New Game Plus makes you re-recruit everyone, but they will still have the level ups of your old playthrough. You can tell I never really utilized Sho. The Tiger Demon is only of a puny level 65. Her lady, who I did somewhat consider, is at least level 93. Alright, I think you've gotten a thorough impression of Genso Yonbai Ken 2. As a finale for this video, I wanted to show you how I grinded for the final boss. That one is so unbelievably cheap, you're probably going to have to give yourself some sort of an edge through stats. I did so with the help of the library training stage. Shikieiki, Remu, Sakuya, Mamizo, they're all chumps. They can bury their noses into the bookshelves. All you need is Yuka, the ultimate reckless cowboy. The books are very weak, but it would still take time to move your party around the furniture, so why bother? Why not just run in alone and blast them to smithereens? Total damage 15,872. Takes about a minute and you get all of this experience. With that, I'm Gesh86, this was Genso Yonbai Ken 2, probably my favorite Touhou RPG on Steam right now, out of only 3 we currently have. Bis bald!